Since the dawn of time, man has questioned life. Why are we here? Who are we? And ultimately, what created us? These questions are as ancient as the human curiosity itself. Today, there are several competing theories and speculations about how life arose on Earth. While common man generally believes that God created life, scientists are trying to provide logical sequence of events and evidence that led to the origin of life from non-living matter. According to the chance theory, every individual arrives into this world as a culmination of a chain of seeming coincidences from a particular sperm reaching a particular egg to the chance that parents of the baby happen to meet and their parents too, and generations of ancestors before them. But the chance theory doesn't stop there. Some scientists believe the chain of seeming coincidences goes back much further than that, to our creation, our planet, and the origin of the universe. According to the theory of chance, we happen to live on this perfect planet in a perfect universe just by coincidence. It merely feels that this place has been made for us. But it is not. The evolutionists believe that the Earth is located at just the right distance around just the right star just by an accident. The temperatures on its surface are just right to commit liquid water to exist purely by chance, just as those temperatures have remained just right for billions of years. Similarly, there was just the right amount of time for human beings to evolve, all by chance. Those who believe in creation, on the other hand, argue that to be a true believer of the theory of chance and microevolution, one has to blindly believe in so many hypotheses, pure speculations and unknowns. Is our existence really accidental? In this film, we want to show you how 4 scientific discoveries and some critical information from the distant past have perfectly answered our existential questions and brought the search for God to an end. Let's begin with assessing the theory of chance and evolution. According to evolutionists, 2 or 3 billion years ago, the Earth was populated only by single-celled organisms whose origin is still unknown. One day, quite by accident, a bacterium got into an archaea, and for some unknown reasons, a symbiotic relationship began. The archaea got the energy generated by the bacterium that allowed the cell to begin to work in larger colonies to begin to construct complex living things. This chance encounter between 2 unicellular organisms led to what is called natural selection and ultimately the self-creation of human beings and millions of other species of life on planet Earth. This seems like a great start to a wonderful story. However, the 4 scientific discoveries that we are going to see next have strongly challenged this story. The first great discovery questions the origin of the unicellular bacterium at archaea. Back in Darwin's day in 1859, life appeared much simpler. Viewed through the primitive microscopes of the day, the cell appeared to be a simple blob of jelly or uncomplicated protoplasm. Now, almost 150 years later, with the advent of nanotechnology, that view has changed dramatically. We have discovered a virtual universe inside the cell. Since James Watson and Francis Crick elucidated the structure of DNA in 1953, many scientists are convinced that cells contain a complex code and intricate chemistry. They could never have come into being by pure, undirected chemistry. No matter how chemicals are mixed, they do not create DNA spirals or the information that it contains. Only DNA reproduces DNA. The 19th century materialists could see this. They didn't know that one microscopic cell is a whole city of finely calibrated machines for manufacturing, transporting, receiving, managing, energy transfer, communications, cellular switches, cables, pulleys, solar power, electrical processes, cells that swim, cells that copy themselves, ingest food. In short, we are seeing highly sophisticated molecular machines controlling every cellular process. The removal of any one of these parts causes the system to effectively cease functioning. In 1981, 2 well-known scientists, Fred Hoyle and Chandra Wickramasinghe, calculated the odds of life forming by natural processes. They estimated that there is less than 1 chance in 10 to the 40,000 that life could have originated by random trials. It is an outrageously small probability that could not be faced even if the whole universe consisted of organic soup. The enormous information content of even the simplest living systems. Modern science has confirmed that as many as 3 billion characters of precise information in the digital code instruct the cell how to build complex molecules to do the work, so the cell can stay alive. So far, no one could answer, where did this specified information come from without an initial parent capable of creating genetic information? There is no known law, no known process, no known sequence of events, or a hypothesis that has come close to explaining how information originated by itself in matter so it can arrange and rearrange itself in a way to build extremely complex organisms. For example, this is the process of protein formation inside the cells. A molecular assembly line builds a specifically linked chain of amino acids in ribosome. These amino acids are transported from other parts of the cell and then linked into chains often hundreds of units long. Their sequential arrangements determine the type of protein manufactured. Here we see the number of possible combinations for a very modest, shortest protein of 150 amino acids, which means there is 1 chance in 10 to the 95th power to get a specific sequence right. To understand how rare that chance is, one needs to know that there are only 10 to the 80 elementary particles in the whole universe. In total, there's only been 10 to the 17 seconds since the origin of the 13 billion years old universe. In comparison, the probability of a simple cell evolving through undirected chemistry alone is 1 in 10 to the 340 millionth power, 340 million. It is as rare and as impossible like finding one particular grain of sand in the whole observable universe filled with sand. Anything as rare as that probability has operationally no possibility of happening by chance. Now the question is it rational or scientific to put faith in such odds for the origin of life by chance? The second great discovery is related to the origin of the universe, which is inseparable from the origin of life discussion. In 1922, Alexander Friedmann used Einstein's theory of general relativity to predict that the universe was expanding. Data from Hubble telescope confirmed that no matter which part of the sky we look at, we find galaxies moving away from us. It means if we go back in time, at each step back, the universe is going to get smaller and smaller until reaching a point where all the matter in the universe is congealed into a single point. That marks the beginning of expansion. The Big Bang was not a random, uncontrolled explosion. Now we know that it was a finely adjusted act of creation. If the bang had been 1 part in a million more powerful, it would have rushed out too fast for the galaxies and life to develop. If the strong nuclear force were decreased 2%, atomic nuclei wouldn't hold together, and hydrogen would be the only kind of atom in the universe. If the gravitational force were decreased by a hair, stars, including the sun, would not ignite. It strains credulity to propose that the fine adjustment are random, and we are here by chance. The third great scientific discovery is that space and time also had a beginning. There's a huge problem for the materialistic worldview, which claims everything originates from matter. Yet if you take Stephen Hawking's discovery seriously, you realize that if you go back far enough in time, you have an infinitely tight curvature to space, which corresponds to no spatial volume, and therefore there's nowhere to put any matter. There is no matter in the early phase of the universe. It comes into existence suddenly from nothing physical, and therefore the chance theory can't refer to anything as a cause for the origin of the matter and subsequently the universe. According to quantum cosmology, in the very first, tiniest, micromilliseconds of existence, the universe was oscillating in a timeless, non-isolating wave function. The equation of quantum mechanics describes the different possible geometries, or gravitational fields, that might have existed in that early non-time before the universe began in time. However, what we have is a universe with one geometry and one type of gravitational field. So to get from that state described by the quantum equation to the universe we have, something has to get rid of all the possibilities and actualize one. It is called collapse the wave packet. According to quantum mechanics, what collapses the wave packet, the thing that actualizes all possibilities into one, is always an observation, which is made by a mind, a person, a creator in control. So even if we invoke this cosmological model, we actually end up suggesting the need for a creator that proponents of the theories of chance and evolution reject, despite the fact that they have is no explanation for going from 1. The timeless to the temporal, 2. The immaterial to a real universe that has matter and energy and other things, and 3. All that range of possibilities to an actualized universe that requires the infusion of information. The fourth great discovery of modern science is that the laws and constants of the universe have been finally adjusted only to enable life on Earth. From the marketplace to outer space, there are regularities in nature. Order is hidden in everything, from rivers, rocks, and landscape, to living things. All the intricacies that we see across the natural world emerge from scores of improbable and interdependent life, supporting conditions that are extremely fine-tuned with the specific purpose to make this Earth a tiny oasis in a vast and hostile universe. It's not that there are just a few broadly defined constants. In fact, there are more than 122 very narrowly defined constants that strongly point that our creation, and the creation of the universe, can't be just a chance. These constants include everything from our exacting distance from the Sun, to the exacting balanced gravitational forces, the Earth's axis rotation rate, the thickness of the Earth's crust, the preciseness of atmospheric discharge, the delicately balanced thickness of our protective and life-sustaining atmosphere, and the precise chemical balances is the air we breathe. Without the precise and measured balances, along with scores and scores of others of equal importance, we would not know. We could not be here. Astrophysicist Hugh Ross has calculated the probability that these more than 122 constants would exist today, for any planet in the universe, by chance. His answer is quite shocking. That's 1 chance in 10 to the 138. This shows that a blueprint for the creation does exist, a scientific blueprint. And we know blueprints do not emerge by chance or accident. There is a consensus among scientists that they have no idea how exactly life emerged spontaneously from mixtures of molecules in the prebiotic Earth. Scientists also agree that we don't have enough scientific evidence to explain a grand tree of life, or the origin of genetic code, or the bridge from inert non-living chemicals to self-replicating molecular systems. Scientific progress so far has confirmed that science alone cannot prove we're here by creation, but neither can science prove we're here by chance or evolution. No one has observed either. Both theories are accepted on faith. The issue is which faith has better scientific support, the chance and Darwinian microevolution, or the creation. Of course, we don't have enough scientific evidence to conclude the origin of life debate. However, we have more than enough scientific evidence to reliably test the validity of another set of related information from more than 1,000 years ago, a period when whimsical doctrines still prevailed. The information is this text is not the product of any kind of scientific research or experiments. Yet the factual information contained in this text has been proven to be not only correct by the recent discoveries, but it also expresses truths of primordial importance, which we have taken centuries to discover. For example, 1. The text talks about the anthropic principles and the exact fine-tuning of the universe that we've come to know about just recently. 2. The text tells us about this process of human creation from a single cell in pairs and details about embryonic development that we could discover only in the 20th century. 3. The text further talks about the primordial gas clouds at the time of creation, something which Fumagalli could confirm only in 2011. 4. The text talks about the expansion of the universe, which was only confirmed in the 20th century. 5. The text from the 7th century revealed the existence of the moon's and the sun's orbits. Giordano Bruno was burnt at the stake for suggested the same in 1590. The work of Galileo, Kepler, and Copernicus during the 16th and 17th centuries finally confirmed the solar system and the sun's place in it. 6. The same text tells us about the exact speed of light in the simplest of words possible. 7. The text talks about the evolution of the solar system and the sun running its course toward a final resting place of its own, a fact which the modern science discovered recently and also established the exact location of the sun's final resting place, a location situated in the constellation of Hercules. Alpha Layer. 8. The text discusses the water cycle on Earth with such remarkable accuracy that even modern science could not confirm until 1580 through Bernard Palissy experiments. 9. The text reveals the existence of subatomic particles long before their discoveries in 19th century. 10. The list goes on. The text actually talks about other scientific facts, such as the barrier between the salt and freshwater sea, the darkness at the depth of oceans, the weight of clouds, the creation of human beings as the best of all creations, the existence of pain receptors, and our identity hidden in fingertips, and much more. Scientific discoveries continue to confirm that the factual information in this text is true to the letter. The question is, who could be the author of this remarkable text? Let's assume that all the information in this text, which obviously was unknown to the people at the time, is not a word of God as it claims. Let's assume that a person made it up only to impress a people into believing him. To find out if it's really the word of God, let's apply the law of probability to determine the chances of all these assumed guesses to be simultaneously correct. A practical demonstration of the Earth's sphericity was achieved by Ferdinand Magellan and Juan Sebastian's expedition's circumnavigation in 1519, 800 years prior to that, the time when the text was written down. People thought the world was flat. There were several other possibilities. The Earth could have been dome-like, or disc-like, or square in shape, or quadrangular, pentagonal, irregular, hexagonal, heptagonal, octagonal, spherical, or any combination of all these shapes. Let's assume there were about 30 different possibilities for the shape of the Earth. However, the text rightly says it is spherical. If it was a guess, the chances of it being correct was 1 out of 30. Let's move on. This light from the moon could have been its own light or a reflected light. This text from the 7th century says it is a reflected light. If it was a guess, the chances that it would have been correct were 1 out of 2, and the probability that both the guesses the Earth was spherical and the light of the moon a reflected light comes to 1/30th into 1/2 is equal to 1 chance out of 60. Further, the text from the 7th century says that every living thing is made up of water. Every living thing could have been made up of any combination of the hundreds of elements. Let's say there were about 10,000 possibilities. Research shows that the text is right in claiming that every living thing is made up of water. If it was a guess, the chances that it would have been correct were 1 out of 10,000, and the probability of all the 3 guesses so far being correct comes to 17%. The text tells us that it is the female bee that makes honey, a fact that Jan Swammerdam could only confirm in the 16th century. If female bees making honey was a guess, the chances that it would have been correct were 1 out of 2, and the probability that all the 4 guesses so far being correct come to 85%. The sun was considered stationary until the 17th century. The text mentioned the sun rotation about its axis 1400 years ago. If it was a calculated guess, the chances that it would have been correct were 1 out of 2, and the probability that all the 5 guesses that we discussed so far being correct comes down to 425%. There are about 2,000 verses in the text that speak of hundreds of things that were not known or scientifically confirmed 1400 years ago. We see the probability of only 5 facts mentioned in the text being correct is as low as 425%. If all the factual information in about 2,000 verses were guesses, to estimate the probability of all of them being correct, based on just out of the 2 possibilities of right or wrong, we need to figure out 1/2 x 1/2 x 1/2, up to 2,000 times. In other words, we need to calculate 5 to the 2,000. This is a probability on the order of impossibility. Let's not forget the fact that not a single statement in the 7th century text has been scientifically challenged to this day. This can't happen by chance. Only a creator could talk about his creation with such preciseness, long before the recent scientific discoveries. And this is what the text claims, to be the Word of God, the Creator of all things. There is no doubt that an illiterate person from the 7th century Arabia could not become the most important author in terms of literary merit in the whole Arabic literature. Furthermore, he simply could not pronounce truths of scientific nature that no other human being could possibly have developed or knew at the time, and all this without making the slightest error in his pronouncements of the subject. It is beyond human capacity to make about 2,000 correct guesses without a single mistake, which, in itself, is sufficient proof that the logical author of the text, called the Quran, is the Creator who created the universe and revealed the key information, not just about its origin and its current state, but also about its future, long before we could discover mere fragments of it through centuries of scientific research. Out of evolution and creation, evolution requires more blind faith in its speculations and the unseen than the creation. None of what is the Creator revealed in the Quran about His creation has been proven wrong today. Science has instead confirmed most of what has been revealed in the Quran. Once it is convincingly established that the 7th century Quran has indeed the knowledge centuries ahead of its time, this fact by itself is a convincing proof and an answer to who could be the author of Quran and the Creator of all things. The question is, why would someone ignore this text and believe in mere speculations such as the creation by chance, or evolution, or the existence of many planets exactly like ours? Francis Bacon, the famous philosopher, has rightly said that a little knowledge of science makes man an atheist, but an in-depth study of science makes him a believer in God. Many false gods and related doctrines have confused people around the world. It is not surprising to see many, who grew up in environments with several irrational beliefs, have stopped believing in false gods and call themselves atheists. In fact, atheism is the first part of the Islamic belief. One has to reject all false gods by declaring, La ilaha, means there is no God, illallah but Allah, the Creator. If you are still in doubt, here are the 2 prophecies from the Quran from 1400 years ago. 1. In this verse, the Creator tells us that people will come and present ideas and hypotheses about the creation of the universe and life, and those people were not helping God in His grand design. We can see the result of this prophecy very vividly in our present time. The theory of evolution and the self-behaving universe are mere human guesswork and assumptions that cannot be proved yet have successfully confused the humanity. 2. In this verse, the Creator promises to show us His signs in the farthest regions of the universe, as well as in our own souls until it becomes manifest to us that He is the Creator of all things, and we are not here by accident or chance, without any purpose in life. Despite the so obvious signs of the Creator, if someone still denies God, he is like a man who is born blind and refuses to acknowledge the existence of light because he cannot perceive light. This blind man's very existence depends on light, yet his inability to perceive it allows him to deny what is so obvious to the sighted. No amount of rational argument, evidence, facts, and proof will convince him because he has limited himself to trusting in his faulty perception. To expand on this example, the human being is incapable of perceiving reality in its entirety. For instance, we must rely on the opinions of theoreticians to understand what our limited perceptions cannot perceive as atoms, neutrons, protons, and the mysterious properties of matter and energy which quantum physics explores. The opinions of these theoreticians are often accepted without question because their theories seem to explain the nature of the universe that we can perceive. So science divides the universe into the seen, perceptible, and the unseen, imperceptible, in order to account for existence and substance. Islam has stated the case for the imperceptible universe long before Western theoreticians offered their ideas on the subject. Islam explains that both the perceptible and the imperceptible universe were created in one act. Q 2130. Have not those who disbelieve known that the heavens and the earth were of one piece? Then we parted them, and we made every living thing of water. Will they not then believe? The Quran talks about the one perceived universe and other imperceptible universes or heavens. In other words, the perceptible and the imperceptible are different states of the same substance/essence, the imperceptible being progressively more refined as it moves away from the perceptible. Isn't that what quantum physics is now discovering? In Islam, the ultimate imperception is the uncaused cause, or Allah, who is totally removed from the creation, because he caused creation and therefore is not part of it. Allah is the ultimate reality, the ultimate refinement, and the ultimate truth. Quran has provided the information regarding the perceptible and the imperceptible states of existence 1400 years ago. If we live long enough, maybe the world of science will conclude what we have known for a millennium and a half.